Multiplying fractions by fractions. Today we're going to look at a simple example using unit fractions to introduce us to this idea. So we're going to examine 1/2 times 1/4. First we must approach this by thinking about what the multiplication symbol actually means. This is known as the groups of symbol. So 1/2 times 1/4 actually means 1/2 groups of 1/4, or I need 1/2 of a group of a quarter. So a simple way to say this is just to say half of a quarter. I want to take half of a quarter. Okay, I don't want a group of a quarter. I don't want one group of a quarter. I only want half of a group. So I only want half of that quarter. So to do this, let's first look at 1/4 in a diagram form. And we want to find 1/2 of this. So now it's becoming already quite straightforward, and I encourage you to stick with the sketches initially before you progress into just using the numbers and numerators and denominators. So 1/2 of 1/4 as drawn would just be simply cutting that light blue piece in half, and we want 1/2 of that. So I've drawn that line through the center of the light blue piece to show you the halves. And I just want one of those pieces, 1/2. So I now need to cut the other pieces up purely so I can understand what type of piece I've now ended up with. And so now I can see by cutting the rest up, I've ended up with 1/8. And again, I only want one of those pieces because that's 1/2 of that light blue area. So I end up with the shape as shown on the right. So my final answer is 1/8. So 1/2 times 1/4 is 1/8. Now to examine this in some closer fashion with a strategy that is often used, we can multiply directly across the numerators and denominators. So 1 times 1 equals 1, and halves times quarters, or 2 times 4s, equals 8ths, or 2 times 4 equals 8. So it's very common for students to learn very quickly that they can just multiply the digits across the top and across the bottom. But it's really important that we understand what's going on through the example given and what the whole point of the fraction answer and what it represents. What I would like to now examine is let's looking at this 1/2 and 1/4 just for a moment longer. I also want to show you the idea that we've learnt already in multiplication, and that is the reversibility. So 1/2 times 1/4 can be flipped to be 1/4 times a half, which would then also be flipped to be 1/4 of a half. So I've drawn that at the bottom here, 1/4 of 1/2. Of course, it looks different, it is different, but from our understanding of multiplication, it should give us the same final answer. So let's check this through. 1/4 of 1/2 would mean that I want a quarter of that light blue piece. So that means I need to cut it into 4 pieces. And I only want one of those pieces. So that piece that I'm pointing to in red is my answer. I need to cut the rest of the shape up so I know what type of fraction piece it is. And of course now I know by doing that I've got 8ths. And again, I only want that one piece is my final answer, which would look like this, as shown on the right. So that's my final answer, which is of course still 1/8. So this is another trick you've got up your sleeve. You can use your same knowledge of multiplication. You can flip and use the property that you're familiar with here if it proves easier for you to understand or solve for that particular problem. And again, looking closely here, if we do 1 times 1, we'll have 1, and 4ths times halves will give 8ths, or 4 times 2 will give 8ths. So the same properties exist, and we can use this strategy as well.